Well, hello there. I'm Brad Caston. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to talk about a very simple and affordable way that I like to finish my paintings. And I was going to share that with you, talk about some of the benefits, some of the maybe drawbacks. But I think it's a great way if you're just getting started to finish your paintings. So if you have any questions along the way, feel free to post them in the chat and I will check those as I go along. But before we get into what my finishing system is for this video, I use a few different types of finish for different reasons. This one, the first one I'm going to be sharing with you is one of the first ones I started with for finishing my acrylic pour paintings. I've used this method on different paintings in the past and different applications in the past, so I'm pretty used to it. So I just used it on this new acrylic pour painting when I was first starting out. It worked really well. And so I just kept working on it, but I've also incorporated a few other methods that I will talk about in subsequent videos down the road a little bit. But this one I like a lot. It's pretty simple. I'll explain how to do it. You get good results and your paintings look great. So we'll get into that in a second. But the first thing is, why would you want to finish your acrylic paintings in the first place? And there's a couple reasons. First of all, you don't have to. Most of my paintings are unfinished or do not have a top coat on them, a top coat or a varnish or finish. So you don't have to, or at least you don't have to right away. You could always apply something down the road. So don't feel like you have to rush into putting some kind of a top coat on your finished pour. It's not really necessary right off the bat. But why would you want to do it? Well, first of all, if you wanted to get a different type of sheen, so if you're using a lot of Floetrol, let's say, like I do in my paintings, Floetrol tends to have a matte finish when your paint dries. So a lot of your paintings look a little matte and look a little dull, perhaps. Hi, Sandra. Thanks for joining. And so you might want to like pump up that color a little bit, pump up the finish and make it a little glossier or kind of a satin finish. Another thing with all acrylics is all acrylics dry shade darker. It just happens to be the nature of the acrylic. There's no getting around it really. All acrylics dry a tiny bit darker. And so that can be, it just is what it is really. There's nothing we can do about it. But they also might lose a little bit of their sparkle. You'll notice that the wet paint looks amazing. And when it dries, not quite as good. A finish on top can bring back some of the colors, kind of add a little punch to your blacks. I'll show you an example in a little bit on a sample I did to give you an idea of what an unfinished versus finished painting looks like. So that's one reason, is just to give it a uniform glossy finish. I like, this is just a personal opinion. I really like the way a lot of my paintings look unfinished, because some of the paint has a little more matte to it, some is a little shinier. The metallics all have a little sparkle to them. I think it gives a lot of interest to the painting. One thing that's kind of a drawback, you could look at it that way with a finish or a varnish, is everything will get the same sheen. So if you put a gloss finish on your painting, everything will be glossy. If you put like a satin sheen, everything will be a satin finish. So if you have some of this kind of a little more matte areas or a little more satin areas with just the paint and the metallics, that's all going to go away really. And everything will be kind of the same. So that you could look at that kind of as a drawback or an advantage. It all depends on your personal opinion, really. Now, another reason to put a top coat on your painting is just to protect the acrylic paint. Now, acrylics, they're pretty durable. They're plastic, so they're not that delicate. But acrylics are rather porous. So That means over the years, perhaps dust can collect on them. And if you have like a very light color painting, like a lot of whites, and it's in a dusty area, that dust might kind of stick onto your paint. So that's probably the biggest reason you'd want to finish your paint or your painting, is just to protect the acrylic paint itself. A top coat will be kind of smooth and easier to clean. So that's another reason. And then, the final reason would be just you like the way it looks. That's kind of probably what most people, why they put a top coat on. They just really like that glossy look. I'll show you a few different, I have a couple different finishes that we can look at. Hi, Denise. Thanks for joining us all the way from Australia. Thanks for stopping in. So let's talk about the actual finish itself, and I won't keep you in suspense any longer. The first thing we're going to talk about is a spray-on finish. And for that, I like to use this product right here. This is a Krylon product. I get this at Lowe's or Home Depot. I get it at Lowe's. But this is a ColorMaxx Clear spray-on finish. There are probably a lot of different products you'll be able to find that are very similar to this. So I would say go ahead and test whatever you can. If you can't find this particular product, I'll show you a close-up of this in a second. But I love the spray-on finish because it's pretty easy to put on. It doesn't leave any brush marks, which is an advantage. You can put on multiple coats. And this particular one comes in 3 different sheens or finishes. So this is a satin. You can also get it in a gloss, and you can get it in a matte or a flat color. So I know the flat is probably not super popular, but anyway, some people might like the flat. So I have all 3 because I like to experiment with all different ones. I've used the gloss one a lot. I've used the satin one quite a bit. I don't use the matte one or the flat one as much, but it's a great finish. And there's a story I'll tell you about this. A couple of years ago in 2019, I was asked to join an art show. They wanted me to come and show my paintings in an art show. And this particular one, it was, for charity, and which was great, but you could sell your paintings as well. So there were a bunch of different artists, and they wanted me to do some demos of my painting process. And I was actually on the news, which was fun. So I came and did a bunch of demos, but I had all these paintings I had to bring, but none of them were finished. And this was kind of short notice. So I had about 4 days, I think, to finish maybe 25 to 30 paintings. So I needed something that I could do really fast and that would dry pretty quick and that I was comfortable with. So I chose to go with the Krylon ColorMaxx, this spray-on finish. And another thing about this one, it says it's non-yellowing. And I think that's a true statement because I've had paintings for years that I've used this finish on, and they haven't yellowed, or at least I haven't been able to tell that they've yellowed. So this is a great finish. Let me show you a close-up of the can if you just want to take a quick look at it. So here is the can. It's Krylon ColorMaxx Clear, and this is a satin one right here, and then non-yellowing. So this one works great. Now you might want to find. Let me switch back really quick. So if you got that one, if you took a note. Hey, Navala, thanks for joining us. Let me switch back here. So anyway, this is a great one, but if you can't find this particular one, there might be like what is another one? I can't think of the name. Rust-Oleum makes one, I know that. And then there are also some more professional versions of spray-on finishes. Liquitex makes one, and Golden, I think, makes one, I'm sure. This one is $4 for a can, which is great. It's very inexpensive. So, and with this, one of these cans can spray about maybe 3 to 4 small paintings, like an 8x10, or maybe 2 larger paintings, like a 16x20. You could probably spray 2 of them. And I usually do about 2 coats, and I spray in 2 directions. So the first coat I will spray on like a across my painting in one direction. And then once that dries, I'll turn the painting and then spray it the other direction. So golden is awesome. Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah, they make great products. The other thing about maybe golden and Liquitex, they'll have some UV, um, protection in those products, but they're probably about $20 a can, whereas this one is like $4. So is this like the best thing you could possibly get? No, of course not. It's just a good alternative. It's just a good option. If you're just starting out, especially, it's a great place to start in finishing your paintings. So I'll show you a couple tips on using this stuff. You have to shake it really well. That's tip number one, is you want to shake it really well. The second tip is I recommend getting one of these things. This is like a trigger. It's a handle and a trigger that fits right over the spray can. So it fits just like this. And you pull the trigger, and I'm not going to pull it, but you see this top part that pushes down on the nozzle. And they want the nozzle to be pointed straight out. So this makes it a whole lot easier to get an even coat with these spray cans. I love these little handles. And you could probably find this for, I think it's maybe $10 or something like that at Lowe's or Home Depot or your hardware store. But I highly recommend picking one of these up. So let's take a look at a couple sample paintings, and I'll show you kind of what this looks like. So here's one of them. This is a big yellow painting, and this is the gloss sheen on here. So I'll just kind of see if I can turn it and catch the light. You can kind of see the glare on there and see what it kind of looks like. It's pretty shiny, and you don't get any brush strokes, which is great. I really like that. And that's just two coats on the yellow painting. Here's another one. This is a big purple and blue painting. And this one, again, is the gloss. And you can kind of see it's very even coverage. And it's just a nice finish. It just adds a little bit of something, some sparkle back to your finish. And I think it's just a really nice, easy to apply finish. So here's a sample. Now this is just a sample painting I did. I masked half of it and just sprayed one half with the satin, just to give you an idea of what an unfinished painting would look like next to a finished painting. So, and I wanted to do a dark one. So this one is just a sample and it had a lot of black in it. So you can kind of see, I'm going to try to move it around. You can see the shiny side with the satin and then the flat side. So that's kind of what it would look like, an unfinished versus a finished. And it does give the colors a little bit of a sparkle. It kind of brings the blacks back to life a little bit and the purples. So there is a look at that. I'll do another close-up here. Let me switch the camera. So get maybe a little bit better look at this. I'll kind of tilt it around. So you can I'm trying to get the light to bounce off of the finish. So there's the satin, and it does kind of pop the blacks and the colors. And you can see how matte the one side is. So I just did that quick sample just to give you a kind of an idea of what this finish looks like. So let me go back and see. Let me flip back. Sorry, I'm going to flip back. And I got a question here. Tayfun, hopefully I said that right. Tayfun asks, what kind of picture frame is that? This one right here, this is called a floating frame. It's just about a 1-inch thick floating frame. You can buy these at art stores, like an online art store like Blick.com. Jerry's Artorama has floating frames like this. They're not super expensive. It's a very kind of low profile, kind of classy look. I personally make these myself for my paintings, but you can find them online. Just check floating frames for canvas is probably what I would suggest looking for. And yeah, they're nice. You can get them in different finishes. Like this is just a black, just a simple black, but you can get them in silver, gold, probably white, a whole variety of different finishes. So another couple tips about actually spraying your canvas. I'm going to just switch the camera again really quick. So I'll use my little purple one here as an example. So whenever you're using spray can and you're spraying a finish, it's really important to do it all in one even coat and not like push and let go of the trigger. So you want to start off of your canvas, start like pull your trigger down and then start and evenly go across and then go all the way, always go over the edges, a cup, maybe an inch or so you don't get a big buildup on these edges. So you want to go again, like evenly across all the way down in one motion and with holding the trigger down all the way and not letting it up. Every time you let it up, you get kind of like a spurt, and you can get a nasty like spurt of glob of finish on your painting, which you don't want. So it's not super difficult, but it does take a little bit of practice. So I would do my first coat like this, starting off, start and go all the way down, across, and then go around the edges, all the way around the edges. And then that would be one coat. Then once that's dry, I would turn the canvas and then do the same thing. So now I'm going in the opposite direction for the second coat. So I'd start again off and then one with the trigger depressed, keep going all the way down your painting and then around the edges. And then that's all you need to do, really. And 2 coats and it will look, should look pretty great. And this is a very nice, easy, what do I want to say? The cans are well designed. So the spray is even. It's not super clumpy or anything like that. I've not had any problems with ever spraying this. And I've gone through dozens of these cans and I've never had a problem with them. But what I recommend is with like this type of a finish or any finish, always test it out on some kind of paintings you are not in love with, that you can sacrifice if something goes wrong, and get a feel for applying the finish. It might take you a couple times to kind of get the feel for it. Something might go wrong. You might put it on too thin or too thick. So it really takes some experience and just takes you practicing it a few times, and then you'll kind of get the hang of it. And that goes for like a spray on finish, a brush on finish, a pour on finish, the resin especially. If you're interested in resin, you have to practice this stuff because things can go bad. There is a tiny bit of a learning curve with all of this. And what you don't want to do is take like a finished piece that you love or that you've sold, even worse, and test these out on the first time on something like that. That is a bad idea. So just a heads up about that. Now, there's a couple, disadvantages or drawbacks to this spray finish. All finishes have their pluses and minuses. I'll talk about kind of the drawbacks of this finish, which is you have to do it outside. I would recommend doing it outside or in a very well ventilated area because it does stink and there are fumes. So you do want to wear a mask. I'd wear a respirator. I have one that I wear, and it's like the big one with the cartridges. Like if you do resin, it's that type of a respirator. So I would definitely recommend wearing a respirator. Go outside. and have a well ventilated area. I wouldn't do it in the house because it's going to stink up your house. And this is not good to inhale. So those are kind of the drawbacks. But the things I love about it is it's very affordable. Like $4. It's easy to find. You get good results. There are no brush strokes. You can get it in a few different sheens, like a gloss or a satin. So you can really kind of customize it to what you want. And I think it's great for the beginner, or if you're just getting started in paint pouring, or you're just getting started in selling your paintings. I'd recommend starting out with one of these. And are there other finishes? Oh, of course. There's many, many other finishes, which we'll talk about in future lessons or future videos. But for now, any questions that you might have about this finish or anything else, feel free to throw it in the comments. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions. And Tayfun, thank you. You're welcome. Anyone else? Let me get rid of this thingy here. Okay, so no other questions are coming in. So, let's see. Yes, Angela had a question. Can I turn the can around? Absolutely. Here, let me give you a close-up of the can here. Let me switch the camera. So this is the Krylon ColorMaxx Clear. And I get this at Lowe's. And this one happens to be a satin finish, but it does come in gloss. And I have a gloss one that I like. And it does come in flat, if you want to do like a flat finish. So, Angela missed the class. No problem. You can catch the replay. But basically, this is just a very affordable, relatively easy to apply finish that I like using. And I'll show you another example quick. So that is the Krylon. And let's see here. So just a recap. Here's another look at this sample painting. And one side is finished with the satin, and this side has the, this is the, oh my God, it's weird. Okay, this is the unfinished side. This is the satiny side. And so I'll just turn this again a little bit so you can kind of see it. So, but I like it, this finish does kind of pop the colors, which I like. If you have a lot of black, it kind of darkens the blacks up again. And I really like the satin. It's not too shiny. Sometimes if you get too shiny, like resin is crazy shiny, it can be kind of difficult depending on where you place the painting to kind of see the artwork, which I think is one of the biggest drawbacks with resin, in my opinion. I mean, it looks amazing, but sometimes it's, too much. So, this is a little test I did with a finished / unfinished little painting there. So I like that sheen. So, well, thank you very much, Facebook user. I appreciate the calm way you teach and share. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you are enjoying my live videos. So anything else? Anybody have any other questions they'd like to ask or talk about? I'll show you this big yellow painting again. So this is, now one thing I didn't mention is there's a lot of gold in this painting, and it's going to be probably impossible to see this on the camera, but when you turn the painting, or change your angle of looking at it, all the gold still is really sparkly, and you can kind of see the shimmer. So the spray finish doesn't like kill that; it enhances it a little bit. So I really like that. I was worried about that when I first started using it. Would it like kill all the metallics, and you won't be able to see the the shimmeriness of them? But it doesn't do that. It kind of enhances them a little bit, which I really like. So there's my big yellow one, Right, I'll switch this around. This is the glossed finish on there. So you can kind of see what that looks like. Again, it's a nice finish. It's not super glossy. It's not like super gloss, but it is a nice even finish. How about epoxy? Tayfun asked about the epoxy. Epoxy resin, which is it's very popular in the acrylic pouring world. It's talked about all the time. I'm going to resin my paintings, and typically it's a two-part epoxy. You have a part A and a part B, and you have to combine them together. And usually it's a one part of each, but not always. It depends on the resin. They're all a bit different. And once you combine them, you have to combine them. You have to be very precise with your measurements, and then you have to mix them, and you have to be very precise with your mixing. You have to mix for a certain amount of time to get everything incorporated. If it's not mixed thoroughly, it's not going to harden correctly, and it'll be tacky, and there's nothing you can do about it. It can go wrong in many ways. Another huge problem with resin is air bubbles, and the more you mix, the more air bubbles are incorporated in your resin, and there are several ways to minimize the air bubbles. I don't want to make this a whole, resin workshop, but you can heat the resin like in a warm bath before. You can put your mixed resin in a vacuum chamber and suck out all the air bubbles. But all resins have a working time. So depending on what resin you're using, you might have 5 minutes, you might have 10 minutes, you might have 20 minutes. It all depends on what brand, what resin, and it can be, it's a very complicated way of finishing your paintings. And it is definitely not for beginners, I would say. It's expensive. It takes a lot of materials. You have to have a setup all ready to go, because once you pour that on, it'll self-level. You've got to leave it and let it dry. And you have to be very careful with your health. You have to wear a mask, a respirator. And there's, resin it's a gorgeous finish. Don't get me wrong. I've used it. I like it. But it's a big process, and you have to really be, ready to take all that on. So if you're just getting started and just, testing it out, testing the waters, it's not, I would say avoid it. That's an experienced, advanced, expensive way to finish your painting. So wait until you're ready to, really pour in the investment into resin. So those are my 2 cents anyway. You can, of course, if you want to try it, feel free to go right ahead. But it is involved. So just keep that in mind. So, okay. Hope that answers your question. Anyone else have any questions about finishing or this particular finish? Let me just take a quick look here. And yes, Angela, resin can be very expensive. So it's probably the most expensive finish you could apply, in my opinion. So yeah, it's expensive and it's complicated. So let's see here. Anyone else? Well, if there are no other questions, I'll give it another second. Thanks so much for joining me today and talking a little bit about finishing. And again, this is just one way to do it. This is one way I particularly like to do it. It's a affordable way. It's a pretty easy way. And I think it'll give you pretty good results if you want to give it a try. And again, practice first on a couple pieces you're not in love with, just in case something goes wrong. And, I love this little handle that attaches to the can. I highly recommend this. This is a great thing to use. It makes it a whole lot easier. And work outside. And you're welcome, Navala. Thanks for joining us. Work outside, wear your respirator, and take it easy, have fun with it, and I think you'll get great results. So thank you so much, everyone. I will see you in the next live. And if you like this live, I would love it if you would like it or share it with your friends or anyone else that you know that's into acrylic paint pouring. That would be awesome. So thanks a lot. I will see you later. Bye-bye.